questions, metaphysical questions, and questions about your natal charts. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to comment below. Let's give the people some time to enter the chat. I did come on a little earlier today. So let's see what questions you guys have for us today. If you are watching the replay and you guys would like your own natal chart reading or progress natal chart reading or synastry reading, the information for all of that is going to be in the description box below. It's going to be on my website underneath the readings tab. You can select what reading you want. An email window should pop up and then we can go from there. You guys send me an email and we'll go from there. Hey Luna, how are you doing? What's new? What should we talk about today? I'm on a little bit earlier than usual. What kinds of things should we talk about today? What do you guys want to know about your natal charts, astrology? Hey, Raphael. Hey, T. How are you guys doing? Yes, I came on a little sooner than usual to catch some of you guys that usually don't catch the lives. I missed you too. How are you? What's new with you? What's the 411? What should we talk about today? What do you guys want to know about in terms of your natal charts, astrology, metaphysics? Hey, Cassie. How are you doing? You said, question about synastry with Mars and your partner's 12th house. So Mars is in your partner. So your Mars is in your partner's 12th house. Hey, Cassie, welcome. Welcome to the channel. I'm excited to have you here. If you are new here, I do these lives. So if you guys have any questions about astrology and metaphysics, your natal charts, feel free to comment below. Now, okay, so you said synastry with Mars and your partner's 12th house. So it's your Mars and the partner's 12th house. So this is probably a past life connection. There could be a lot of intuition taking place here. Hey Dee, how are you doing? Hey David, what's new? Yes, there could be a lot of connection, Raphael, in terms of intuition. Mars can be action, so it could be kind of like an intuitive connection in terms of like going after goals and ambitions together. It could be a past life connection. It could be like a past life sexual partner as well. There could be a lot of intuition when it comes to the sexual dynamic between the two people with that 12th house energy in there. So it's interesting because all the energies, it can go either in the light side or in the shadow side. Do you know what I mean? So like Mars likes to go energetically, right? So the 12th house is the dreamer. So it's like the Mars person can kind of take the 12th house person's dreams and kind of act on them to kind of bring them through. Hey guys, how are you guys doing? You have Mars in the 12th house. 1 second, you guys. Okay, I am back. I'll give it a second to load. You said second marriage info, you have Mars in the 12th house. So what would you like to know about your second marriage? You said, have I looked into Destiny Matrix charts? No, I'm not sure what that is. I'm going to screenshot it and then look into it after. You said you have not had many successful relationships. I'm curious to know, Cassie. Well, there's a few questions here. Are you into men? Are you into women? Because then we would look at different things in your chart to see what's going on. You can look at the Venus too as well. T, you said you have an A house stellium in Pisces, Sun, Moon, Mercury, and Venus. You said you're into men. Okay, I'll get to you in just a second. So 1 second. T, you said you have an A house stellium in Pisces, Sun, Moon, Mercury, and Venus. You're really struggling in your friendships right now. Yeah, that could be a lot of shadow work coming up in relationships overall, a lot of shadowy behaviors, a lot of shady people, people trying to take advantage of you with that Piscean energy. You have to watch out when you have Pisces energy, 12th house energy, because you're going to be someone who sees people through a rose-colored lens, okay? So that's a struggle with all of that. So a lot of the time, because you said relationships or you said friendships, a lot of the time, you know, it's unfortunate because like the Pisces person sees the best in the person and then they also see who that person could be. Do you know what I mean? You kind of connect to the person's higher self in a way. So it's like who they are in that physical reality. And thank you guys so much for the likes. Who they are in the physical reality might not match to who you're tapping into for them, because who you're tapping into, because you're a little bit more psychic and intuitive, could be their higher self. Do you know what I mean? And it's like everyone has to merge the higher self with their lower self. Do you know what I mean? But until that point, most people are in the lower self. So it's like when you have a lot of Piscean energy or Neptunian or like 12th house, what you guys, I mean, everyone has a free will to do what they want. But what you can do is you can kind of see what's going on in the physical realm is really what that is. Like, are their actions aligning with their words? You know, it's like if you catch red flags, don't be so quick to forgive, because that Piscean energy is going to forgive. Although you do have the A house in there, so the A house might not necessarily be the most forgiving. But that's the thing with Pisces, especially having Venus in Pisces. So it's a little bit of a struggle. So these people also get a lot of readings done, especially when it comes to relationships as well. Any sort of Venus in Pisces, Venus Neptune aspect is like as time goes on, you kind of lose the trust in the self, because again, you see everyone through this like idealized lens. Hey everyone, you said Pisces in the 12th house here. Exactly. So that could actually pertain to you, Cassie, in your relationships. Maybe you see people through this idealized lens or who they could be, or you see the best in the person and then maybe you don't want to accept like their shadow side. Because you know what I've been thinking about, you guys? I've been thinking about the whole concept of cognitive dissonance and how that happens. Like, unfortunately, you'll see a lot of like toxic dating coach tactics deal with putting the other person into cognitive dissonance. So what do I mean by this? Well, for example, love bombing is the best example of this, okay? The person will be their like ideal version, best self, or whatever, who they think you want them to be, like these types of things, and then they switch up on you, right? And then you go into cognitive dissonance. And because you're in cognitive dissonance, like this is just my own observation, but because you're in cognitive dissonance, you can't kind of rationalize like what's going on here. Do you know what I mean? So that's kind of like Piscean influence in relationships, Neptunian 12th house influence. So, okay, Cassie, if you're into men, you want to look at your sun, you want to look at your Mars, and then look at the aspects to the sun and Mars. It'll tell you what kind of men or just like masculine energy you're pulling through, and even the Saturn, okay? Because there could be like a repeated pattern taking place there in your relationships. You said, yes, I'm so glad that resonated. You're so bad about seeing the best in people. Yeah, that's like a Piscean 12th house thing. That's why Pisces is like very forgiving. And at the same time, Pisces doesn't really have boundaries. And then a lot of the time they attract like narcissistic people and like energy vampires. And like, it's like, these people are looking for people to overstep their boundaries. You know what I mean? So like both of you guys, you know, or anyone who has Pisces 12th house influence or Neptunian influence when it comes to their relationships, like really learning about boundaries. What are your boundaries? You know, not going into just like, oh, like, you know, I'm holding on to the feeling, you know, because like that's kind of like the Piscean energy. They're like looking for the feeling, and like that's fine. But it's like at the same time, it's like you kind of get this feeling, and at the same time, it's like it might not be grounded in like reality or like what's taking place in the physical reality. I hope that makes sense. Secretive relationships as well, absolutely. And you said you have Mars in the 12th house, so you can actually attract, having Mars in the 12th house, you can actually attract masculines into your life who are secretive, who are like the shadow of the 12th house, and they could actually be past life enemies as well. When you have any 12th house energy. So you guys, sun in the 12th is past life enemies coming through, usually as the father figure or masculines in your life. Moon in the 12th house is going to be past life enemies coming through as the mother, traditionally the mother. Again, if the roles are reversed, you would look at that person, okay? Or, and same thing with the father, okay? Or feminines in your life. Then you have Mercury as past life enemies coming through as siblings and cousins, okay? And then, or just like, you know, like your friends, like the day-to-day types of people. And then the Venus is past life enemies coming through as lovers, or like friendships as well, because it's Venus. And then Mars can be past life enemies coming through as the masculine energy, okay, or sexual partners as well for Mars. And then we have Jupiter can be kind of like a spiritual guru. Do you know what I mean? Like if you have Jupiter in the 12th, like let's say be like a past life enemy coming through as like a spiritual guru, like someone you kind of give your power away to in this sense. It doesn't have to be like a full-blown guru. It could be kind of like a motivational speaker, for example, like someone that you kind of put on a pedestal. That's Jupiter. And then Saturn in the 12th can be past life enemies coming through as authority and authority figures. So that's the struggle with the 12th house, basically. BRB, you guys. Okay, I am back again. Let's see, you said, what would I look for synastry between women? You didn't know it was gender specific. It's the energy, do you know what I mean? So like, for example, if you're looking at like the energy that you're pulling through, okay, into your life, traditionally in astrology, like the sun and the Mars is gonna be men, right? But you know, everyone has masculine, feminine energy within them. So you can look at masculines in your life. Like for example, it could be, let's say a woman who's predominantly in her masculine energy, okay? You can look at it that way, okay? So that's sun and Mars, and even Saturn can sometimes tell you about masculines as well, okay? And that's the energy you're pulling through, and then you wanna look at the aspects to those placements, because it's gonna tell you what is the energy and like the karma as well. And the karma starts with the father, usually traditionally in astrology, okay? Now the thing is, if it's not the father, you're gonna look at the dominant masculine role in your life for the sun. Then for feminines in your life, you're gonna look at Moon and Venus. Now what's interesting, what I've learned is that for, let's say, men who are into women, a lot of the time, the first wife, like the vibe of the first wife, okay, let's say they got married once, okay, is going to be the moon. The second wife, or like, let's say they got a divorce, or whatever, right, is going to be the Venus, which is really, really interesting. So I learned about that as well. So that's the thing. So it's like, again, Moon and Venus can be women, but it can also be feminines in your life. So it depends, right? Because sometimes you have people who operate predominantly out of like feminine energy and so on and so forth. So you're looking at the masculine, feminine energy within. Hey, Nature's Moon, how are you doing? Or you have Jupiter in the 8th house too, but that's actually like well through a spouse. You said you're setting boundaries moving forward. Oh my gosh, you guys are on the same page. I love when there's like a theme in the chat or just like the same frequency like aligns. You said you have Mars conjunct Chiron. So for you, Sir La Luna, for you in terms of a man, you're probably prone to healing men, fixing men, trying to take care of men with a Mars conjuncting Chiron, okay? Or it depends also what sign is going on in here. I'm curious to know what sign you have going on in the Mars. So it could be this, or let's say it's in a more healed version. Let's say like your relationships with men or the masculine with the Mars conjunct Chiron can be healing as well. So it depends, right, you guys? It depends, like, are you going into the shadow aspect of the energy or are you going into the divine version? Because it depends, like, where are you in terms of your own evolutionary journey as well. Oh, that's so awesome, Nature's Moon. Yeah, I was debating. I was like, should I go today? And then I was thinking about when should I go today? And then I was thinking about, should I go tomorrow? So it's so interesting how we're all interconnected. But yeah, then I decided to go today and a little bit earlier than usual. I'm just going back up to see what you guys were saying in here. You said, do I feel like all of this hypergamy and manosphere talk on the internet is a trap for our egos to never find true love? Well, first of all, a lot of that is about transactional relationships. Now, the next thing with all of that, my question is, like, you guys have to look at, like, why is it blowing up so much right now? Is it because the economy is in a crisis? Like, is that what it is? Because up until, like, the recent, like, maybe, like, 3 to 4 years, nobody was really talking about that so much on the internet. You know what I mean? So it's interesting to see how certain things blow up, and then it's like it's feeding into, there's a few things that are taking place. Like, some of the things are a purge for the collective, so you hear like what's going on both sides, right? And then the collective is purging this by speaking about it and so on and so forth. But yes, so if you ask me, like, it depends, because in my opinion, what has to take place in dynamics is, and this is within the self as well, okay? So if you guys look at masculine and feminine energy within, and then in dynamics, this is how I see it. Maybe this is a little bit more metaphysical. I don't see things in a linear fashion, okay? So in terms of relationships, what has to take place is you want your feminine energy to activate first, okay? So you go into the feminine first, and then through the feminine, you activate, let's say, the masculine. So what happens sometimes is some people are more in the masculine, some people are more in the feminine. So up until this point in time, what was taking place with relationships was people were balancing the energy within themselves through relationships, for example, right? That's why I don't necessarily believe in forever types of relationships. That's just me, because it's like, I look at it as an energy exchange between two people, and when it's been balanced between the two people, you move on, right? But it's like there's a lot of shadiness, there's a lot of deceit, there's a lot of like people hiding behind the scenes and so on and so forth. Like, if people were just honest with themselves when something is done, they would just have it be done, and then they would move on to the next thing. Now, the next thing for you guys to understand is that up until this point in time, okay, a lot of specifically women's root chakra, okay, was connected to the masculine, right? And to relationships in general. So the thing is, if you are living in a country where you can make money for yourself and you can have financial independence, it would be beneficial for you. Obviously, everyone has a free will to do what they want, but to heal your root chakra, okay? All of this is kind of pulling us energetically back, right? The whole hypergamy thing, because you're giving your power away. The thing is, as we go into the higher vibrations and as you kind of heal within yourself, the end goal for everybody, okay, is to be a sovereign being. You can't be sovereign if you're in a situation with someone. Now, the thing is, if you look at a relationship as, you know, a contract or these types of transactional types of things, it's like you're giving something in the relationship and then the other person is giving something as well. And if you're okay with that, then that is your contract between the two people. But I find that the times that we're living in, that's not necessarily necessary anymore. Do you know what I mean? It's not necessary to be in these contractual things. And I find it very energetically binding, and it pulls people down into their lower chakras. And this is everybody, right? And then you can't really go into the higher chakras. So that's the thing. So the feminine energy needs to activate the heart space, basically. And then when your heart space is activated, you're able to go into your higher chakras. So the thing is, back in the day, because there was such a huge polarity between masculine and feminine, okay, the feminines, for example, were maybe more in the feminine, and then you have the masculines who were more in the masculine. So the masculines would have been more in the root, and let's say like the lower 3 chakras, the feminines would have been in the upper 3 chakras, for example, right? And then they would come together, and then they would balance the energy amongst each other, and so on and so forth, right? But the thing is now is like, I feel like a lot of people have been reincarnating a lot of times. We're basically at the end times, okay? And because we're at the end times, a lot of people have a lot of karma with a lot of other people. Do you know what I mean? So it's just like really interesting to see. So that's basically what that is. In terms of true love, I find that it's true love within the self, okay? That's what you want to do. So you're activating through relationships. You activate, and then you come into kind of like the wholeness in the person. You're sovereign, and then you can kind of choose like, you know, do you want the companionship and so on and so forth. I hope that makes sense. You said you hate transactional relationships, whether it be friendship or romantic. It feels unnatural. It is unnatural. It absolutely is unnatural. And it's like, it has an expiration date on it, is basically what that is. And the thing is also, okay, here's another thing too, in terms of transactional relationships. Here's the thing, okay? If it's like a business thing and you sign a contract, I get it. And that's what marriage used to be, right? It used to be a business agreement. Now, who was benefiting from it? That's a completely different conversation, right? And like, again, it was a societal thing, right? So it was transactional in that sense. But it's like, you know, sometimes you have to have the contract, because you know what I heard from somebody else? I loved this. They were basically saying that, you know, the whole reason humans have contracts is because they can't trust each other. I was like, oh my gosh, that is literally so on point. So it's this. So the thing is, the whole concept of transactional dynamics, I find it to be very lower chakras based, and it's like people are not in their heart space, which is like when you're disconnected from your heart space, you're disconnected from your humanity. Do you know what I mean? Then you don't see each other as humans anymore, if that makes sense. It's more so like a means to an end. So it's like if you're both in that vibe, then it works for both of you. Do you know what I mean? Because again, it's transactional, right? But if you're more in the heart space, and this is what I mean by going up in the higher chakras and activating the heart space and getting more in tune, right, with, again, your humanity and being actually a human being. But the thing is, most people like have been disconnected from the heart space and the feeling aspect of things. And if you're disconnected from the feeling aspect of things, then you don't actually see yourself as a human being. I hope that that makes sense, okay? So when you don't see yourself as a human being, you don't see other people as human beings, okay? And that's kind of how narcissists basically come to be, okay? And it's like they're very, very unhealed and traumatized. And it's like they're very much in the lower chakras. BRB, you guys. So that's basically what that is. I am back. Yay, I'm so glad. Okay, good. See, there's always a reason for everything. I knew there was a reason why I was kind of being pulled to go on earlier. I'm just going back up to see what else you guys are saying up here. Oh, you have Venus in the 12th house too? Yeah, that's a lot of like karmic clearance. And like, that's another thing to look at too. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, you can't look at like even relationships as like a one size fits all, because it doesn't fit all, because it's like, you have some people who have more karma to clear. For example, a Venus in the 12th house person has a lot of karma to clear through relationships. So for example, you might date a lot more people or have a lot more friends, let's say, than the other person. Or maybe you will have, let's say, a lot of jobs where you'll meet and interact with these people. Do you know what I mean? So that's the thing. So it's like energetically, like it's really interesting to see all these things taking place, because it's like a lot of the mentality is very old school, and it's like not in alignment with where we're going as a collective in terms of Aquarius energy, which is all about like individuality and like the sovereignty of the self. So it's really interesting to see kind of like energetically how the timelines are being pulled back. But at the same time, it's like a lot of people don't understand what's taking place, because the thing is, at the same time, energetically, like the feminine energy has been very suppressed within most people, right? Like the whole structure is like, to me, it's shadow masculine. I don't even look at it as masculine, to be honest. It's a shadow masculine energy. It's like an inversion of masculine energy, basically what's taking place down here on this earth plane. So it's like everyone has to basically reset those energies within themselves, right? But you can't reset it if you don't know what's taking place, right? So it's like kind of nice that we have the internet, because then everyone's talking. So it's like you can take the information in and you can be like, okay, like this was happening, and then you can kind of purge it through your vessel. I hope that that makes sense. You said you have Cancer, Saturn in the 7th house. You're scared. You won't be in a serious relationship till you're much older. How can you combat this? So here's my question again, right? This goes back into like the whole one size fits all, right? Like sometimes the karma is to be in a serious relationship later on in life because you're meant to be doing something else in the earlier part of your life. Do you know what I mean? It's like we get fed this whole like, okay, this has to happen first, and then this has to happen, and then this other thing has to happen. And then you'll see if you sometimes go against, let's say, the energy, right? And you force something that's like not energetically in alignment with you, you kind of energetically weave yourself into this karmic web, and then you'll see that you are unhappy inside. But most people, again, they're disconnected from the self, so they can't even sense within the body what's taking place, like when something is not energetically in alignment with them. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, even if that is karmically what's taking place with Saturn in the 7th, like that's not the worst thing, because it's like, let's say you get into a serious relationship when you're young, usually around your first Saturn return, you go through a separation of some sort, okay? And it's like, let's say you got married with Saturn in the 7th house when you were younger, around Saturn, your Saturn return, you could go through the separation, and then Saturn in the 8th, you could go through a divorce, which is a separation of assets. And who wants to deal with that? Do you know what I mean? It's so much like back and forth and all this type of stuff. So it's like, you'll see, like if you kind of unplug yourself from like what everyone, this is for everyone, right? Like from what we are all fed, right? And you kind of go like with the intuition, you will start to see, right, that your intuition is actually leading you in a certain like direction. Like same thing with attachment styles. Like I think to myself sometimes in terms of attachment styles, I'm like, sometimes people, let's say, who have like anxiety, like attachment style, like the anxious attachment style, or if they have the avoidant, like sometimes I'm like, isn't this, maybe it's just their intuition that's telling them to stay away from this person. Do you know what I mean? Like sometimes you have anxiety around a person because you're not meant to be around that person because they're bad vibes. Like sometimes I look at it as like a frequency thing, you know? Or maybe you're avoidant because there's, again, something that you're picking up on energetically within that person that's like not vibing with you. So it's really interesting to see. There's a lot to like deprogram and like undo. What happens after death? Okay. This is deep because I actually have a video on here. Okay, if you guys are part of this channel and you're not just popping in for the first time, but even if you're popping in, be sure to check out my metaphysical playlist, because on there I have a video called Metaphysical Perspective on Death, or like Death from a Metaphysical Perspective, like something like that. Like I talked about my own perspective on that. I know it's a sensitive topic for everybody, so if it is sensitive for you, then you don't have to watch it. But the thing is, like, I see it as like down here on this earth plane, we're on a reincarnation loop. Like that's my own opinion, okay? So down here, there's a reincarnation loop because down here, it's operated by Saturn, okay? Energetically, there's an overlay around this earth plane. It's like gridded, or there's some sort of energetic system that's taking place because that's actually what's operating the astrological thing, right? And it's actually operated by Saturn, in my own opinion, okay? That's just my own opinion. The thing is, sometimes when you cross out, it depends what was taking place down here on this earth plane. Did you have a desire line left? Did you feel, you know, like you missed out on something? Did you have any regrets? Did you forget to, you know, confront Bob when he stole your pencil in the 5th grade? You know what I mean? So it's like, if you haven't released all these things, you get looped back around, right? So at this point in time, I feel like the game here is to figure out how to exit this realm without reincarnating again, okay? And this is what I mean, what I was saying earlier too, about like, we're kind of at this point in time, this is my own like metaphysical opinion, where it's like, I feel like most of the collective is at like a lot of accumulated karma. Do you know what I mean? So that's why, again, you know, certain concepts that maybe did exist once upon a time, which maybe back then, you know, you could have been in a relationship with somebody for your entire life, doesn't necessarily apply at this point in time because people have a lot of karma to clear with a lot of people from reincarnating so many times. And then you have the new souls. You'll know who are the new souls. They're just like happy to be alive. And then you have the resting souls, and then you also have the NPCs. So it's like a complex topic. There's a lot to say, but in a nutshell, it's like, you know, it depends, okay? It depends what happened down here. Are you reincarnating again, okay? Or are you leaving to go somewhere else? That's how I see it, because it's like, it's dimensional is basically what that is. You said you were hoping you can get things right this time so you can ascend to something else. Yeah, and I think that everybody can. So like when I was younger, I used to think that like, you know, specific people had their last lifetime. Do you know what I mean? Like I thought it was like already like a thing that it's like this person's last lifetime kind of thing. But now I think that you can choose. Do you know what I mean? Like I think you can set the intention and you can be like, okay, I want this to be my last lifetime, and you want your intention to be so strong. But the thing is, what I will say to you guys, okay, when you decide for it to be your last lifetime, you're gonna have to basically clear all of the lower chakra things and all of the karmic things and not get looped back into all of the karmic things, okay? If you guys want it to be your last lifetime, that's just my opinion. So 12th house people are gonna resonate with this probably the most, maybe even Piscean types of people, even like Scorpionic, some of the Scorpionic types of people, like that whole quadrant basically from Scorpio onwards would probably resonate with that, but especially 12th house people will know what I'm saying when it comes to that, okay? Thank you, Natural Beauty. How are you doing? Thank you. Oh my gosh, I love pink. You said you were wondering if Venus in Aquarius first house leads to singleness. You always find that your friendships are stronger and last longer than romantic connections. Okay, so it depends. You want to see what else is going on in your chart. Do you know what I mean? What is happening with your descendant, okay, which is your 7th house? Do you have any aspects taking place with the Venus? Because the thing is, Venus in Aquarius, in my own opinion, so everything that I was saying to you guys earlier, okay? And, you know, maybe you just popped into this chat just now, so maybe you can rewatch it later and see what I was talking about when it comes to relationships in general and like how people perceive relationships currently at this point in time. But the way that I see it is like where we're heading in the future is Venus in Aquarius, okay? You guys are already ahead of the collective, okay? It's basically what that is. When I did the Venus in Aquarius video, I like shot up into my crown. I literally had to take a moment and I was like, okay, like this is like so futuristic, this energy, okay? Venus in Aquarius is futuristic because it's like there's a strong, basically there's the strong friendship element when it comes to your relationships. You can even be friends with your exes, for example, when you have Venus in Aquarius, because it's like there could be this detached energy. And the thing is, even if you have like, you know, Aquarius in your 7th house, or if you have like any Venus Uranus aspects, for example, and then Venus in Aquarius, for these individuals, okay, their individuality comes first, okay? So for you, it's important to be able to be your own person, okay? To be who you are, right? So sometimes these people, you will see them in quote unquote unconventional relationships, but the thing is like, again, it depends what is the convention during that period of time. Do you know what I mean? So it's like you'll see them in like unconventional types of things because for them, they need to maintain the individuality of the self, right? So for example, you'll see these people in situations where like, you know, they're dating someone for like 15 years and, you know, they don't live in the same house together, for example, or apartment together, or, you know, it's a long distance type of relationship, or they see each other sometimes, or sometimes these people can have multiple partners, for example, because it's like there's this detachment, right? Because the thing is, up until this point in time, the collective has been very unhealed with a perspective on relationships, okay? And a lot of that is connected to, again, the root chakra. That's kind of what I was talking about earlier as well. For certain individuals, the root chakra was connected to relationships and to another person, right? So it's like after you clear these things within yourself, you will see that we are going in that direction where things are a little bit more relaxed when it comes to relationships, for example, okay? So that's kind of how I see it. You said great way of putting a shadow masculine. Yeah, it's shadow masculine because it's not real masculine energy, okay? This earth plane. Real masculine energy is protecting, basically, okay? Especially protecting women and children. And what's the main thing that's happening down here? I mean, just, you know, you can take a look. I'm going to have to speak between the lines here, but like look at the person who got arrested within like maybe like the last like 2-3 weeks and like the whole ring that he's involved in, right? Like that's shadow masculine energy, right? That's the complete inversion of protecting, let's say, women and children, right? So it's unfortunate because, okay, so this is going to be a whole other tangent. I hope you guys are ready, okay? So it's unfortunate because that's actually like what's energetically fueling this whole earth plane is this inverted masculine energy. And then people don't realize that when they are watching certain things, and especially if they are watching certain things that are corn with a P, okay, it's like you are plugging into the shadow masculine energy that's fueling the inverted energy is basically what's taking place. You know what I mean? And it's not just that, it's even like movies and like these types of things. So it's really interesting to see because it's been the age of Pisces, right? So it's been a lot of mind control through, let's say, visual things, right? And like film and so on and so forth. But it's like we are going into the age of Aquarius, but that could also go into the shadow, right? So it depends on the collective to see like what direction are we heading in, right? So yes, it's definitely shadow masculine down here in my opinion. Thank you, Luna. You're awesome. You said, hi, Barbara, what do I mean when I say 9th house is the key to unlocking the midheaven career? You said you have Pluto in Scorpio, 9th house, Venus conjunct Saturn, and the 10th, plus Neptune and Uranus. So hold on, what's going on with Neptune and Uranus? Venus conjunct Saturn and the 10th. Is Neptune and Uranus also conjuncting your Venus? Okay, so for you guys, basically, and this is going to be in the Placidus tropical system, because in the whole sign, sometimes their 9th house is already like their midheaven. But this is like for the Placidus tropical system where your midheaven is your 10th house. So the whole reason the 9th house, you actually have to go through all the preceding houses to unlock the 10th house, okay? But that video that I made was basically talking about how like the ninth house or the people, like the sign that you have in here, the ninth house is going to be the people or like the type of person you are learning from to activate your 10th house, okay? So it doesn't have to be that sign. So for example, let's say your ninth house is in Sagittarius, right? It doesn't have to be Sagittarius people, but it's people who embody Sagittarius types of traits. You're learning from them in order to activate your 10th house. I hope that makes sense, okay? Because the ninth house shows us the people who we are learning from, right? And then to get to the 10th, you actually have to go through the preceding houses, especially you guys, the 4th house. I talk about that a lot too. So I have a video on that as well where I talk about the importance of the 4th house, okay? So in that video, I talk about in terms of like your home and your upbringing. And it's so interesting, right? Because like all these things are in psychology and it's like, it's just really fascinating to see like the overlaps and all of these types of things, which by the way, I'm not a psychologist, but everything comes from your original 2 caregivers. So it's like your 4th house is directly opposing your 10th. So what I always say to people is like, if you're not achieving your career and you're not, you know, getting to that 10th house, and which a lot of the time, you guys, is going to be after the age of 35 anyways, because you have to go through, it's Saturn, right? The 10th house energy. So it's going to take some time to get there. But the thing is like, if it's not activating, then you have to look at your 4th house and you have to look at your home and you have to look at your upbringing, okay? It's going to give you the clues as to what you could have internalized, what could be energetically holding you back. So for example, let's say, okay, your 10th house is in Aries, okay? And then your 4th house is going to be in Libra. So in this case, Aries wants to be a starter, right? That's the career you might want, or like the vibe of the career, or like the vibe of your public image. You want to be a starter, you want to be a leader, you might want to be an athlete, you might want to start your own company, you might want to be a manager, like these types of things, okay? So that's Aries, okay? So the thing is, to get there, you got to look at the Libra energy first, because it's your 4th house, okay? You're moving to that 10th house. So it's like, let's say you have Libra in the 4th, you could have had an upbringing where it's like it was very passive. Or maybe there was a lot of conflict, so you learn to kind of balance everybody. And it's like, you can't be the Aries 10th house, which is conflict, right? Sometimes you stating your own opinion is going to bring up conflict in other people. It is what it is, right? But it's like you could have the fear of doing that because of your 4th house and Libra, the home and the upbringing. So that's kind of like the idea, for example, okay? Now, the 9th house, okay? So let's say, for example, your 10th house is going to be in Capricorn and your 9th house is in Sagittarius. Well, okay, to activate the Capricorn energy, you were learning from Sagittarius types of people, okay? So let's say the freedom energy, the freedom of, let's say, the mind. And that's the thing, that's usually what's actually fueling Capricorn in general. Because the thing is, you guys, okay, so to understand all of the signs, you have to do something. This is how I see it. Like the way that I explain it is like, it's kind of like Inception, okay? So it's like you have to go in the sign to understand the sign even more, okay? So for example, Capricorn energy, if you look at Capricorn as an energy, right? Let's say you look at Capricorn and you look at Capricorn, the energy. This is just like if you're looking at the sign and why the sign is operating the way that it is, okay? So Capricorn, you can look at that as your 1st house, okay? So the 12th house, which is going to be the soul of the Capricorn energy, okay, is Sagittarius, okay? So Capricorn wants, let's say, the wealth and the gains and these types of things because they are looking for freedom, okay? And that comes from the 12th house in Sagittarius, okay? That's why a lot of the time, for example, Sagittarius energy, okay? If you look at Sagittarius as the 1st house, the 12th house of Sag is actually Scorpio, okay? So Sag is the outward expression of Scorpio, okay? I hope that makes sense, you guys. And then you can do that for all the houses for the sign to understand it a little bit deeper. You said your upbringing was your passive. I knew one of you guys was going to be in here. Hey, guys. You said inception of signs and color. Yes, exactly. It's a cool thing, right? Because then you can do that for all of the signs. So for example, Scorpio, okay? The whole reason Scorpio is so possessive, okay, of people is because the 7th house, so if you look at Scorpio as the 1st house, and you can do this for all the signs, okay? And this is probably how people came to these conclusions, okay? I was just thinking about it once. This is how it, like, claircognizance, okay? But this is probably how they decided what the signs mean, right? Because Scorpio, if you look at Scorpio as the 1st house, right? As just the energy, Scorpio is the 1st house. The 7th house of Scorpio energy is Taurus. So when it comes to your relationships, you are possessive like a Taurus, right? That's where the Scorpio possessiveness comes from, okay? And then you can do that for everything. You can even look at the 4th house of that sign to see what's going on in the internal world of that particular sign. Pisces, it depends. What are you looking at for Pisces? Because if you look at Pisces as the 1st house, right? What's preceding Pisces? So before Pisces, you would have Aquarius, okay? So that's kind of like that whole freedom-loving energy. So the soul of a Pisces is actually Aquarius, okay? So that's kind of how it works. And also Pisces has all the preceding signs within it. You said Scorpio would be like, you are not fair to me. I got to assert my fairness. And the whole thing with Scorpio and the whole fairness thing comes from, okay, the 4th house for Scorpio is in Aquarius, okay? So the emotional world of a Scorpionic person is actually Aquarius 4th house, right? That's why Scorpios a lot of the time are even good at acting or keeping a poker face and like keeping their emotions controlled, because the 10th house of Scorpio is gonna be Leo, okay? I hope you guys are catching this, right? So within the Scorpio, the whole thing of, you know, them wanting things to be fair and, you know, fighting, you know, maybe against things or people or these types of things, right? Or just like their individuality, or even when it comes to relationships, Scorpionic energy is very tricky because they will be possessive, but they want to maintain the individuality, which is the 4th house in Aquarius, okay? So you can do that for all the signs to understand how the sign operates. And then you guys, you can do that for the placement to understand how it operates in terms of the placement, okay? So for example, okay, let's say, you know, you are doing this in terms of, let's say, the moon sign. This is how you're going to be operating on an emotional level, right? You're going to do the inception. I call it inception. I don't know. Maybe there's another term for it. I don't know, right? Maybe this is already a thing, but this is just how I see it. Like, it's kind of like inception. You're going into the sign and seeing how the sign operates and why is it operating the way that it is. And there's this other thing you can do, but I'm not going to confuse you guys with too much information. You said that that makes sense. So you said you have your whole Aries in the 1st house, but your ascendant Pisces. Does this mean you're influenced by both equally? You always want to look, okay, so it depends, okay? You always want to look at basically the house and what it's occupied by, right? It's this. Even though you have placements in the 1st house that are in Aries, you're still going to be looking at your 1st house is Pisces, okay? I hope that that makes sense. Hey, you guys, how you guys doing? Do I have Sagittarius placements? No, but thank you. Oh my God, that is such a compliment. I do have Sun conjunct Jupiter though. I do have Sun conjunct Jupiter, so that's probably where you pick up on that from. I'm going back up. You said that's a big topic. You have too many thoughts. Masculine in 2024 is interesting and somehow feeling off and less. Because the thing is like the roles have been inverted energetically within the people. The masculines within the collective have not been in tune with their feminine energy within, right? That's the struggle. So it's like, right now, in terms of the collective, we're having the uprising of feminine energy within, and this is within everybody, okay? We're coming to a balance. So the thing is, nobody understands really anything in terms of, like, people understand things very, very literally, okay? So what do I mean by this? Like, for example, the concept of marriage, right, is looked at as a literal thing, right? But it's like the concept of marriage, if you look at it from an energetic metaphysical perspective, it was supposed to be a metaphor for someone's masculine, feminine energy marrying within the self, right? This is what all of these religious books were trying to teach people, okay? They're trying to teach people enlightenment and how to get the F out of this realm, okay? That's literally, I think, what they're all trying to teach. Now, you're gonna have different bits of information here and there, different interpretations. That's why you wanna look at everything, okay? And you wanna look at the roots of it all, and you want to look at it from a perspective that's not, again, shadow masculine, because everything, it's not just shadow masculine, it's also very literal the way things, you know, are perceived, and also very material. Do you know what I mean? It's like very much like this means this, and it doesn't. There's more to that, right? So it's like that's what the, you know, theological texts are trying to teach people, and like there's a lot of information left out of those. Like you want to look at all of these ancient texts and like the Vedas and these types of things to see what are they trying to actually explain to people, right? So that's basically what that is, okay? So basically what's happening within the collective right now is there is okay, so the whole template energetically within people has been inverted, also within the feminine energy collective as well, right? So feminine energy has been suppressed within people, okay, is basically what's taking place, which is, and this is an energy, you guys, okay? So feminine energy is your intuition, is your feeling, it's your creativity. It could be your psychic gifts and abilities if you take it to that level, okay? It's going to be the heart space. That's the feminine energy within. The masculine energy is the container, okay? The masculine energy is the protection energy. It's also going to be the go-getter energy. It's going to be the ambitious energy within a person. And this is the thing you'll see in astrology, right? Because you have masculine signs and you have feminine signs. It doesn't really matter on like what the gender is basically what that is, because you're going to have someone who's going to operate predominantly out of the feminine. Some people operate predominantly out of the masculine energy, okay? That's basically what's taking place with all of that. So overall, masculines and the collective, like people who operate predominantly out of the masculine energy, and that's a lot of people, right? In general, right? Again, it doesn't matter like what the gender is, but it's like that. This is what I mean by like the inversion of the like template within the person, because it's like you need to have the feminine energy activate, which is your heart space. And then one time I was thinking, you guys can check out my threads, because on my threads, anytime I think of anything metaphysical, I just like type it there. Okay, so check that out. It's the same handle like as my Instagram, which is Barbara JSC, okay? So I was thinking once, and I was thinking how you basically need to have your heart space activated to cross out of this earth plane, right? That's why a lot of people have been, and like, again, the theological texts have tried to explain this in their own way, right? They kind of talk about, in their own words, they talk about how people are trapped in the lower three chakras, which is ego, which is the material, and so on and so forth, right? Sometimes you have to master the material, and it's like you come down here and it's like, oh, look at this shiny object. Oh, look at that shiny object. Oh, I want to do this. I want to be that. I want to do this. And it's like, you know, a lot of the time, it's like the soul gets distracted and you keep reincarnating, and the more you reincarnate, the more karma you accumulate, is really like what's taking place here, okay? Runs to threads. Oh, good. Thank you. I'm so glad that you love my energy. That's awesome. I love your guys' energy too. No, I don't think feminine energy is passive, actually. Feminine energy is actually stronger. So this is another thing, you guys. Okay, so this is another thing to understand about feminine energy, okay? Feminine energy is the metaphysical realms. It's the unseen realms, right? So for you to master, and this is another reason probably why people have been stripped of their feminine energy, because the feminine energy is actually what's operating the earth plane. Like, okay, for you to master the physical plane, you have to master the spiritual plane, right? So in the physical reality, you can have people who are physically strong, right? But the thing is, they might not be spiritually strong. And the thing is, you want to become spiritually strong. So that's what the feminine energy is. Like, people don't understand what the feminine energy is. Like, that's what the struggle is, right? So it's like, you know, up until this point, and even in relationships, right? This is where codependency comes from, because one person might feel powerless because they're stuck in their lower three chakras, for example. They don't know how to activate that feminine energy within. They latch onto the other person, right, who's maybe more in their feminine, and they use that person as a battery pack. Like, this is usually a codependent type of relationship, right? In like the modern day terms, like it will be codependency. But if you look at it from like the like metaphysical perspective, this is energy siphoning. Like, your energy is being siphoned. And it's like, why should one person be used as a battery pack to manifest things for the other person? Everybody should be able to do that for themselves, is basically what that is. So this is why people need to get in tune with that feminine energy within. It's like you being able to see what's actually happening on this realm, like in this earth plane, basically. It's not passive energy, like the feminine energy. Okay, you guys can look at like, okay, if you guys look at it as like water, okay? Water, right? So feminine energy is going to be unpredictable. Feminine energy is wild. If you look at, let's say, like an ocean or like a lake or whatever, like, you know, one day it's going to be calm, but the next day it can literally come and like destruct everything. Like, we just had the hurricanes taking place, right? That's the feminine energy within. So the feminine energy has been stripped of its power within everybody. This is what I'm trying to say. Like, it's within everybody. It's not like this person, that person, this gender, that gender. It's not that. It's within anybody. For you to be a fully sovereign being and to be energetically operating in your sovereignty, right, is to be balanced in your masculine feminine energy. And then at that point in time, you're balanced. Then you can go off and have a good time with everybody. Do you know what I mean? It's like, then you're not going into these transactional relationships, which is interesting that that's part of like the theme of the chat. We were talking about this earlier. If you guys are just joining now, we were talking about transactional relationships earlier. And that's kind of like when one energy is missing in the other, you know, and you feel like you can't develop that within yourself. But I believe everybody can develop that within themselves. I do. So it's up to the people to do the work, but most people don't want to do the work. That's the thing that I've been thinking about as well. So it's like, if you don't want to do the work and you're lazy to do the work, then you have to kind of be in these dynamics where you listen to the other person, right? Like, you're kind of in this like team energy, I guess. And like, honestly, one second. Yeah, I mean, that's how you know it's high vibe, you guys. But yeah, so that's basically what I was saying, okay? So it's basically, this is basically what it is. You have to be in your full sovereignty to be operating at your fullest potential. And then when you're at your fullest potential, you've cleared everything. And this is my own theory, my own belief and my own theory. You exit this realm, right? Unless like some people like might want to come back. I don't know, right? Like, that's up to everybody, but it's this. You said you don't have threads, you want to make one. I don't post on there too often. Like, I kind of go on like sprees, and then I take a break, and then I go on like sprees. So okay, so for you guys to understand how the YouTube chat works, it's kind of like TikTok now, right? So it's like people scroll. So if you guys don't have TikTok, basically the way the lives work on TikTok is like anybody can come on the live, okay? So people scroll, you know, on the YouTube now, and it's like anybody can join the live, right? So that's why when it's in this format, right? When it's in the other format, that's just my own like belief up until now. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it is, because I think they're trying to be more like TikTok on YouTube. So like when it's like this, people can scroll just like they can on TikTok, and anybody can join the live, right? So that's basically what's going on with that. You said, what should you expect for 2025, 2026, and 2027? Honestly, that's so far away. Yeah, there's no need to fear, you guys. Like, there's no need to feed into fear. That's why I don't do predictive astrology. And this is another thing that the theological texts were trying to teach people. Because the thing is, collectively, so it's like we do have the astrological system, but at the same time, most people are operating their astrological placements unconsciously. I hope that that makes sense, right? So it's like you want to learn it so you can transcend it. That's the way that I see astrology, right? Because it's like the chart is going to tell you where you might have certain shadow traits, shadow belief systems, and like you want to transmute the energy within, okay? Is basically what that is. So the future, I don't think is fully decided. Like there needs to be a certain amount of collective energy to create the futures. You know what I mean? So that's why I don't do predictive readings. Even if I do see something psychically these days, I don't say anything about the future because me speaking it, for example, let's say, and the thing is up until this point in time, most people are fear-based, and like people who watch predictions most of the time are in like a fear energy. Cause like if you're watching predictions all the time, you're actually trying to control the future or like trying to mentally prepare yourself for some sort of outcome, right? That's actually what's happening. So it's like when you're in that energy, you're in a fear-based energy. I hope that that makes sense. So it's like, let's say you put something out there and you're like, this is going to happen. Most of the collective is going to be like, oh my gosh, this is going to happen. And because they're in that fear energy and the fear energy is so strong, they're going to actually make it happen. I hope that that makes sense. So it's this. So in terms of 2025, 2026, 2027, a lot of things are changing. Like the outer planets are all going to start changing. So it's going to be a whole new world. Honestly, I was just talking to someone the other day and I was like, wow, like things that happened like, 10 years ago, it literally feels like a different life. Hey Esperanza, how are you doing? Oh, I'm so glad that you're here. You said help sorting the progressed Leo midheaven at 29 degrees. Oh, it said 29 degrees. And you said thank you guys so much for the likes. You said being a 17 degrees Scorpio rising, 29 degrees Libra sun, soon to be Scorpio in February. So your progressed Leo is at, so your midheaven has progressed into Leo at 27 or 29 degrees. And then you said being a 17 degree Scorpio rising, and then 29 degree Libra sun moving into Scorpio. That's going to be shadow work, okay? When you move into the Scorpionic energy, basically you're going to be looking for depth. First it'll be shadow work, and then you're going to be looking for depth, okay? When you go out of Libra into Scorpio, because Libra is like the surface level friendships, oh my gosh, like you're so fun, this is so fun, oh I have this hairdresser, oh I know this mechanic, oh I know this perfect event planner, like that's Libra, right? And then Libra going into Scorpio is like, okay, now I met all these people, time to analyze them, right? That's Scorpio, is going into the depths, right? So you're going to be going into the depths and also within yourself, okay? When you're going into that progression. And then also the midheaven being in Leo, you're going to have to be seen during that period of time, okay? You're going to have to do either something creative for work or be seen or be like a manager or be like an entrepreneur or like a teacher or a comedian, these types of things, okay? You said life before 2020. Exactly. Clear vision was way different. It's so interesting. When I wrote my book in 2020, it wasn't a book, like it's in a book format, but it's like, I look at it more as like an art piece actually, because it's more like, it's not even, I guess you can call it prose. There's some poems in there that I have as well. It's on Amazon, by the way, guys, if you're interested. It's going to be under my shop. I'm pretty sure I have it under the shop. I have a shop on my website, and then I also have my merch shop, but I'm pretty sure it's under the actual shop. Regardless, if you guys are looking for it, like if you want to find it, you'll find it. Do you know what I mean? And it's on my website on one of the tabs. So that book, I called it like 2020 vision. I can see clear now. And what's so interesting? So anytime I started getting information coming through in terms of one-liners, which some things these days I post on Threads, but then some things I don't. So sometimes like some things like that I wanted to be copywritten and I wanted it to be like copywritten under my name, like that I put in a book, if that makes sense. Other things like I just put out there for everybody to hear. So that year I started getting information coming through, and I was just like writing it down, like all of these like one-liners and just like quotes and so on and so forth, like that I was thinking of were just like metaphysical things and concepts. And then I realized, I was like, oh my goodness, it's kind of like I've been keeping track. And it started like literally like as soon as we moved from like December 31st into January 1st, like the first thing that I wrote, and I put this in the book as well, I talked about how we're entering a new decade. And it was so interesting because I didn't realize that I was like basically writing a book, like without realizing that I was writing a book, you know what I mean? So that's basically what's going on with that. So like every month I had information coming through. So it's kind of like, it goes in like January, February, and so on and so forth. So yeah, I look at it as like more so like a whole thing, because it's not really a book. And like on Amazon, unfortunately, you can't make it smaller. And I think I have it in the ebook version as well. Oh, did you get it? Oh my gosh, that's so awesome. Yeah, I actually have two books. So I have that one, and then I had the other one that I wrote. That one was called the Water Guardian. So that was another year where I had information. So again, it's these metaphysical concepts, right? So it's like things that I think of, and just like all these things that I talk about with you guys, information that comes through. Like I write it down and then I put it in a book format, basically, is what that is. Thank you for purchasing, Sarah Lily. Oh my gosh, you're awesome. Yes, I'm sending you guys love and healing energy as well. Hi, Anita. How are you doing? I'm just going to go back up and see what you guys were saying up here, because I went on a few tangents. Let me see what you guys were saying up here. Can I define good and bad karma? I don't see karma as good or bad. I don't see it as good or bad. And maybe that's my Mercury in Libra, but I don't see it as good or bad. It's just karma is basically what that is. Because again, it's like up to you how you perceive it is really, really what that is. And sometimes there's something to clear and it just is what it is. You know what I mean? So sometimes the only way out is through. And again, one of my dominant planets is also Saturn. So maybe that's that energy speaking, but it is what it is. So it's like sometimes you've accumulated karma in certain situations, then you have karmic dynamics. And it's like basically like, in the simplest of terms is like, as long as you try to be a good person and you figure out what your blind spots are and maybe like your woundings and so on and so forth, where people can hook into your energy field and like control you in that way as well. Let's say it's like, oh, you feel sorry for someone, but then that person that you feel sorry for is like always saying snide comments to you. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, then they kind of have a jealousy vibe. Like then you feeling sorry for them is like, why should you be around that person? Do you know what I mean? Like, let's say you feel sorry for them and you're like, oh my gosh, this person, you know, doesn't have a lot of friends and so on and so forth. And then you're around this person and now like, you know, you're giving them your time, you're giving them your energy, and then they're saying like comments or making commentary. Like I call that like to me, that's like mosquito energy. You know, when someone's trying to poke at you. So this is what I mean. So it's like, you know, then you'll have to assess within yourself and be like, okay, well, this person has like this type of vibe. And like, why is this person in my life? Okay, it's because I quote unquote maybe felt sorry for this person, or it could be something else. In this example, you could have felt sorry for them, but maybe you have an abandonment wound. Let's say it's an abandonment wound, because that's one of the biggest, you know, wounds within the collective, right? Unless you have an abandonment wound and you don't want to be alone, which is another issue within relationships, you guys. That's another thing, okay? Speaking of relationships and everything we talked about earlier as well, that's another thing that keeps people in relationships. They don't want to be alone, right? But if you guys are able to take the time to be alone and push through the initial uncomfortable feeling of being on your own, and then you're on your own in your own energy, like you will be able to clear so much energetically, right? So that's another inversion within the collective, right? Which then fuels codependency. So let's say that's the moon, and that's why you have this person around. And then again, you have the fear of being alone, but it's like the person is toxic or rude or whatever, right? So this is how I see it. It's like, you know, there's certain things that are karmic, right? That are just like taking place, but then eventually like certain things are taking place because of like your own way of going about things, if that makes sense, right? So if you're like in the lower chakras in any way, you have certain woundings, and everything comes from like the wounds is basically what that is. So if you guys are interested in learning more about the wounds to see what yours could be, because everybody has them, right? Go under my Exploring the Chakra series. I talk about, it's usually the lower 3 chakras, but there's also the heart chakra, because the heart chakra is like connected to grief. So I talk about the collective wounds in there in terms of what's going on like collectively, right? Like when I say collectively, like it's everybody, right? Like they have some form of this wounding because of the way society has been up until this point in time, right? So if you're able to clear that, right? And you know, clear energetically and understand where it's coming from, then you heal, right? And then you're able to go into the higher chakras is basically what that is. So the higher up you go on the chakras, obviously you're never going to be 100% healed and these types of things. You don't want to be aiming for perfection. You just want to know what your wounding is. So when that situation presents itself the next time, you don't act in like the wounded type of way where it's like you're now weaving more karma for yourself. So most karmic things are connected to the ego, in my opinion, right? It could be an ego-driven desire. It could be a fear of some sort, because the ego also, when it's in the shadow, right? So you need an ego to operate down here on this earth plane, right? Like the ego helps you identify, but things at the same time, the ego also wants to keep you safe. It wants to keep you comfortable. It also wants to keep you like where you're at, right? And it's like, if you want to grow, you can't be in that energy. Do you know what I mean? I mean, you can be, but then you're not going to grow, and you're not growing, and you're not doing what you actually want, then you're miserable. And then most people are in that energy, and then they're projecting on everybody around them, but it's like, it's literally in your hands, right? To be able to clear these things. So that's the way that I see it. Oh my gosh, you said all these people speaking don't understand what they're creating and can tell them one day. Yes, I love it. My opinion of Mercury and Pisces in the 8th house. You feel like people don't understand what you're saying. Yeah, they probably don't with Mercury and Pisces in the 8th house, because you're like in the ethers. Because Mercury, right, which is like the logical mind, again, it's back to the feminine energy, what we were talking about earlier. You're operating more out of like the metaphysical realms when you have Mercury and Pisces, right? So it's like you could be ahead of your time in terms of what you're speaking about. It could be these metaphysical topics, right, that not everybody's necessarily going to understand, and not everybody's meant to understand it. Do you know what I mean? It goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Some people are in a resting life. Some people just like the way things are. They don't think about these types of things, right? Like you can't, it's like talking like, you know, in a different language, right? To these individuals, they're not going to get what you're saying. So there's no point in explaining these things to them, right? When you're Mercury and Pisces. But it's like at the same time, Mercury and Pisces find sometimes, it depends what's going on during the time. Do you know what I mean? So like up until this point, for example, we've had like the entertainment industry. So like Mercury and Pisces would have fit into, let's say, music, right? So they would have, let's say, used frequency to maybe deliver a specific type of healing message, right? In terms of Mercury and Pisces. So it depends, right? Like what the era is and how your energy fits into that particular era. So Mercury and Pisces like can speak in riddles. Sometimes they can just go too much into the crown. Like me and my friends call this crowny. We're going too much into the crown chakra, where it's like the everyday person has no idea what you're saying, like because you're so far in the crown chakra. You probably need another psychic person to understand what it is that you're saying when you're Mercury and Pisces, okay? So you're probably gonna have to, you know, have a lot of psychic people around you. Do you know what I mean? When you're Mercury and Pisces, and then it's the A house as well. So you can also kind of like really bring people's shadows to the surface, like without realizing. Like you can hook into their energy field, and then when you're talking to them, like it just comes out, right? So that could be triggering for people. You said all this Gemini energy forces you to communicate when you're shy. Crowny. So it's crown and then with a Y, crowny. Oops, hold on one second. Undo. I accidentally muted one of you guys, but I meant to mute this other person. Okay. Everything should be under control now. Let's see what else were you guys thinking here. You said all this Gemini energy forces you to communicate when you're so shy. You don't know the universe is. That's exactly what it is though, you guys. You will see the thing that you're meant to be doing in this lifetime. You struggle in exactly that area. So you have to overcome that, basically, is what it is, right? The thing is, when you're crossing out of the earth plane, you don't want to have any desire lines, right? So it's so interesting because even when I was young, I would always think to myself, every decision that I would make, I would think to myself in my head, I'm like, okay, if I don't do this, am I gonna regret this decision? Or if I do this, am I gonna regret this decision? And that was always my like decision-making factor in every situation, is basically what that is, right? So it's like, you know, the Gemini energy wants to talk, right? So it's like, think about it like, if you don't talk, are you gonna regret not talking? Do you know what I mean? Like later on in life, oh, I should have said that. Because like, honestly, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, right? When you have Gemini energy, you're meant to basically open up the throat chakra. You said, you're so much, thank you for the natal chart. You listened to it on repeat. So many things resonated. You mentioned transmuting energy. What does this mean? Okay, so transmuting energy. So see, this is what I mean when I talk about like crowny, right? So that's a crowny term, I guess you can say, right? So transmuting energy is basically when you are transmuting through your vessel. So this is another thing, you guys, that the feminine energy does that people don't understand what the feminine energy does, right? The feminine is naturally transmuting energy all the time. So when you have more water energy in your chart, okay, let's say you're Pisces, let's say you're Scorpio, Cancer, depends on Cancer. Cancer is one of the earlier signs. Like they can do this as well. They just have to resolve a lot of their own things first. I find with Cancer like really has a lot of things that they like internalize. I find that they have to resolve first, okay? Energetically within the self. But regardless, maybe you have a combination of these energies and so on and so forth, okay? When you're a watery person, you are absorbing, okay? You're absorbing energies around you. You're absorbing people's energies. You're absorbing everything, right? So transmuting is taking a lower vibrational emotion or feeling and transmuting it, right, into a higher vibrational one, right? So let's say, and this is also within the self. It always starts with the self. So it kind of goes back to what I was saying to you guys in terms of healing, right? So like, let's say all the time, right? Okay, for example, I'm going to use a shy individual as an example, okay? So let's say, for example, all the time in a situation when you're faced to actually express yourself, right? And you're shy and you hold back, right? To transmute this energy the first time you speak. And you're like, oh my gosh, it wasn't so bad, right? And then you do it again. And you're like, oh my gosh, I got a positive outcome this time. Okay, let me do it again, right? That's how you transmute, right? So you transmute within the self first because you're transmuting the lower vibrational emotions, shadow traits, you know, traumatic experiences and so on and so forth. And eventually, when you transmute, you know, these things within yourself, you might be transmuting for other people. Now, the thing is, what's the struggle with the watery energy is sometimes unconsciously, without you realizing, you merge to another person, okay? Let's say you're living with them. Let's say it's a family member. Because the thing is, we're all energy, right? And your energy and your auric field is basically you know, comprised of your thoughts and your emotions, right? And your emotions are your thoughts, basically, okay? Because emotion is like a thought in motion. It's energy in motion, right? So everything starts with a thought, you guys, right? So did you once upon a time. That's also me taking you guys into the crown chakra, right? Once upon a time, maybe one of your parents was like, oh, you know, thought in their mind, oh, when I have a kid, right? That's like the inception point, right? And then you know, you're being pulled out of the astral into this realm. So, okay, everything starts off as a thought, as an idea, right? So you think of something and you're like, okay, you know, this is my idea. And then if you think about it some more, okay, you're adding emotional energy to it, right? Because energy and motion is emotion. So now because the emotional energy is added to your thought, okay, and this is what like manifesting is essentially, right? You're adding the emotional energy to that thing. Oh my gosh, when I get this thing, oh my gosh, when it's like this, oh my gosh, when it's like that, right? You're pulling it closer towards you, right? So your whole energetic field is basically like created through all of this, right? All of your feelings, all your thoughts, all of your emotions. So a lot of the time when you see a lower vibrational person, they're again operating out of the lower chakras or unprocessed trauma. More often than not, it's unprocessed trauma. And a lot of people are fragmented. I have a video on that as well, okay? So here's the thing, right? Let's say there is an unprocessed trauma individual who is maybe in the lower vibrations. And maybe this individual is, you know, just like overall darker. Maybe they have a lot of shadow behavior. Maybe they have a lot of, again, unprocessed things. They don't even realize why they're acting the way that they are, right? They're there and then you come through, okay, maybe with a strong auric field, for example, or just like very porous. I call this energetically porous. You guys are learning all these terms, okay? Well, me and my friends call it energetically porous, okay? So you being energetically porous, your energy is open and your aura is open, right? You guys come now, and I hope you guys are seeing the visual that I'm painting here for you, okay? You guys come into each other's auric fields, okay? And this is just like being around each other, right? This is before anything else, right? You come into contact with each other. The porous person, if you're open and you're not aware, you are now merging energetically to this person. So let's say it's someone that you're living with, right? Maybe it's just like a random roommate and you're not even friends with them. Maybe they're, you know, in these energies and you're porous, you could take on some of their traits. You could even merge to their thought field, right? So you can start having these thoughts that aren't even yours. That could be that person's. I hope you guys are following, okay? This is very, very metaphysical, okay? So this is like, let's say it's a random acquaintance or someone that you're living with, right? So then it's like you yourself could be like, let's say making these types of decisions and whatever. And it's like, it might not even be your own decision. It could be this other person's, right? Energy, right? Not to mention when you get into a relationship with someone, this is going to be like this on steroids. And then when you sleep with the person, it's this on steroids, right? So it's like, that's kind of how it works energetically, right? If you're a porous person who's energetically porous, you can merge now to this person. If you're unaware, you merge to them. You could take on some of their traits, okay? And now I call it merging and purging, right? So you merge to them and then you're purging for them. But it's like, why are you purging for this person? The only reason you're purging for them is because you're not aware that you've merged to their energetic field. You've taken on their traits, okay? And now you're acting these traits out and basically you are now kind of like purging and transmuting within your vessel, okay? So that's how, if you choose to transmute it into the light. Now the thing is, you don't have to do this, right? So if you don't want this to take place, because the thing is when you are a watery person, this could be happening unconsciously where you're merging to people around you, right? Like I mentioned with the random roommate. So basically, you guys have to close your aura, okay? And I talk about this in my how to stay grounded as a 12th house person, okay? If any of this resonates, check out that video. Even if you're not a 12th house person, probably it's gonna really resonate with 12th house people because 12th house people are already a little bit out of body. And when you're out of body, okay, when you're young and you're not aware, you don't know how to close your aura, right? And then you're merging to these people and you're taking on these traits. And it's like, this is why people get confused because then you don't know who you are. Let's say you're young, everybody is like this, right? You don't know who you are when you're young, right? Especially before your prefrontal cortex develops. Everybody should wait until their prefrontal cortex develops to make any life decisions, but that's just my own opinion, you guys. This is just my own opinion. And I'm so happy to see online people talking about these things more, okay? Anyways, so the way that I see it is like before your prefrontal cortex develops, I see it as like your solar, like you haven't landed energetically within yourself. You're open energetically, right? So with that being said, okay, you're now merging to all these people and their thought patterns and so on and so forth. Like it could even be, let's say like a family member, like let's say a family member has like a projected idea of what they want you to do. And you're a porous person, like you're energetically open. Like everyone is energetically sensitive, but people who are a little bit out of body, usually more psychic people and watery people are more sensitive to these types of things, right? They can be projecting an image onto you. So it's like, it's really hard to explain because you really have to sit down and be like, okay, who am I? What are my likes, wants, needs, and desires? Because you don't have to be going around transmuting for all these people, okay? I hope that makes sense. Oh, I'm so glad that resonated. We are all on the same page, you guys. I love this, okay? Your vibe attracts your tribe. I'm so glad that you guys are a part of this channel because you guys understand what I'm saying, okay? So that's basically what's happening energetically. And it's like, then you get into the situation because then it's like, not only do you have your own karma to clear in this lifetime, right? But then it's like, you could be clearing for other people. And it's like, why are you clearing for these people? You don't have to clear for them. So you have to close your aura, okay? So to close your aura, this is where the whole new age tagline comes in, okay? Keep the vibration high. But the thing is, you can't get to the high vibes if you haven't cleared your lower chakras and the wounding and these types of things and taking off all of these people energies off of you, right? So that's basically what's happening with all of this, right? So you want to take off all these people's energies, and then you have to be more aware and more conscious and closing your auric field in terms of like, again, what do you eat? What do you consume? Do you consume low vibrational foods? That's going to knock your auric field down again, right? Substances, substance abuse, addictive patterns, addictive behaviors. That's why Pisces, also 12th house energy, is connected. Even Neptunian aspects sometimes are connected to substances as well, right? Because they're a little bit out of body. They don't like it down here because down here, again, it's not favorable to the feminine energy. This is an energy thing that I'm trying to explain to you guys, right? And feminine energy is also healing energy as well, right? And it's an energy within all people. This is why I say, like, I think all humans are healers. And as soon as someone is speaking their truth and they're telling their story, it's helping another person, right? Open their throat chakra and speak, and so on and so forth. Because in the higher vibrations, we don't speak, okay? And the higher vibrations, it's all telepathic. And even if you're communicating with like anything that's like basically happening in like the other dimensions, it's all telepathic. It's all through thought, right? So we're coming back full circle to what I was saying to you guys earlier, right? Everything starts out as a thought is basically what that is, okay? So that's basically what's going on with all of that, you guys. So yes, so it's very complex because then you'll see, okay? You know, sometimes you'll see, again, like a 12th house person, or just like, you know, even in like the new age terms, like it could be like an empath, but like I see empaths like differently. Like there's different levels of empaths because there's something called like a higher level empath, which like that person is placed into certain circumstances where it's like dark energy, and where it's dark energy, you are transmuting the energy by sometimes just being there, right? So for example, you'll notice these people, let's say like, you know, you're going for a coffee and you're going into the coffee shop and you walk through and you're like, wait, hold on, like there's a weird vibe here. And then you go behind the coffee shop and like a fight had just ended, right? You'll find yourself in these situations because your light is energetically coming through to basically ground light in that particular area is basically what that is, okay? You said deep down, you know you're a healer. Absolutely you are. Spiritual awakening, Scorpio. I think all humans are healers. You say every time you shake hands or give hugs or fist bumps, you say a prayer and transform the negative energy. And that's Scorpio, right? So this is what I mean. Like the different signs play the different roles. Like Scorpio is really going to be in situations where it's dark, okay? And they're transmuting that energy. You said especially Pisces. Oh my gosh, you guys. I love it. Yay. Thank you guys that all of that resonated. That's good. What's my take on Marijuana? I'm gonna have to spell it out. And then you said, and how it affects you and your energy. All these things, you guys, it opens you up energetically. I find that people who smoke that on an excess go into a lethargic energy, okay? And that could be a few reasons. Again, it can be going into the shadow of the crown chakra, where it puts you into just like, it's the shadow of Pisces too, right? Like shadow Piscean energy goes into just being like, even shadow Cancer sometimes too, but like this energy can go into just like being lethargic. And sometimes I wonder to myself, and I'm like, is this because of the collective unconscious energy? Do you know what I mean? It puts you into like a lethargic energy because you could be energetically opening yourself up. Anytime you do any substances, you guys, even if you drink too much coffee, okay, you're going to open yourself up energetically, and then you're basically taking on all these energies that are lingering around, okay, and now you are transmuting them, basically is what that is. And then you can get overwhelmed. So maybe that's part of the reason that people who engage in that kind of go more into like a lethargic energy, or they don't want to do much because maybe they get energetically overwhelmed. Because already, like if you're a Piscean person or a 12th house person, or like anyone, it doesn't just have to be this, right? Like you could be just someone who's sensitive to energy, and like if you're already sensitive to energy, it's already like taking place, right? And then you do something like a substance to open yourself up even more, then you're kind of like putting yourself back energetically. Do you know what I mean? Because it's like now you're processing for whatever else is around you even more. Do you know what I mean? This is what opens up your energetic fields. You said STFU because when you started smoking, it really opened you up spiritually and you kind of had a spiritual awakening. It depends. It's a frequency thing, you guys. This is what I'm going to say, because it depends what's going on energetically, right? Because it's like these days people talk about psychedelics a lot, but it depends where are you vibrating at vibrationally, right? So I think I was talking about this in the previous live. Sometimes you need a person to take your hand and pull you out of a certain dimension or vibration into the next one, right? Because they open your eyes up to certain things, right? But it's like sometimes if you engage in certain things, it pulls you down, okay? Because you've transcended that vibration, for example, okay? So it's like, let's say something was very healing for you during a period of time. Your vibration could have been down here, okay? And you did this thing and it opened up your eyes, right? And it pulled you up, right? And that's the vibration of that particular thing, because everything has a vibration, right? So let's say even that plant or plant medicine, everything has its own vibration, right? So it's like, if you're under it and you do it, it pulls you, right? But now if you're up and you do it, it pulls you down. I hope that makes sense, okay? So it's like a frequency thing. Eventually, the thing is, everyone wants to get to that energy on their own, is really what that is, okay? You said, just curious, do I ever listen to QHHT lessons or sessions? You might already, if not, you think I'd really enjoy, especially, I did used to listen to them a lot, but a lot of them I noticed started talking about ETs. And that's another thing, what I'm saying about this dimensional thing. So I find the people who are tapping into the ETs, it's like the lower fourth dimension. It's like a dimensional thing, right? So it's like, again, if you're close to that dimension or like vibration, and if you're underneath, it's going to resonate more. But it's like when you kind of go above that dimension, it's like a dimensional thing, right? So I just find it interesting because it's like a lot of people always talk about ETs and ET races and these types of things, but I feel like they're hooking into the lower fourth dimension. It's kind of like the lower astral in a way. So I did used to listen to them a lot back in the day. So I find that really interesting. You said 1996 versus 2002, you think some base vibes are similar, but sure we match and add to each other, but hey, as well. I'm not sure, maybe you guys were talking about something earlier in here. You can look up your own chart, Edward. You can go on AstroSeek or any sort of website online for natal charts, and on there you can put in your information and you can come back. Yeah, I do talk really fast. Oh my goodness. You said so true. Like when you first started doing it, you were so happy and free, and eventually started bringing exactly. That's why I stopped drinking, because eventually I noticed that it wasn't affecting me anymore. Drinking alcohol, okay? I noticed it wasn't affecting me anymore, and that I wasn't able to get, because I used to go ham, you guys. Like I would party like all the time, okay? Like I went like Wednesday to Saturday sometimes. I had so much fun though. But the thing is, that's my own Scorpio energy. Like when I'm in a phase, I'm in that phase like 110%. I'm obsessed with it, and then when I'm done, I'm done. Like I move on, okay? So I noticed eventually that it wasn't having an effect on me anymore, right? And I was like, oh, this is so interesting. And then I noticed I was like getting like really sleepy, and also for spiritual reasons. Like I decided to eventually stop drinking because I noticed what I'm telling you guys, like everything that I talk about is things that I have either firsthand experienced or observed through myself first. You know what I mean? So with that, I noticed that like it was just energetically opening me up, and I would always feel things in my solar plexus chakra. So I noticed, this is what I'm saying, like I noticed I started picking up on energies around me, so then I would have to transmute it the next day. Even now, sometimes, like I don't drink, I don't do any substances. Even now when I go out in the nighttime, like sometimes there's like entities always looming around, right? Like just like when you're out and about, it just is what it is, right? But I've noticed sometimes the next day, like in the morning, I feel it in my solar plexus, and I'm like, it's so interesting because it's like, again, it's just like being energetically sensitive. So I just go on a walk and I just like walk off the energy and I cleanse it. But this is what I mean. It's like when you're not aware, that energy that you're picking up from other people accumulates. So it takes you longer to cleanse it within the self is basically what that is. So it's this, and like again, you know, that's like now when I go out and I don't engage in any sort of substances, like that's just like me and just like being out and about, again, just being energetically open. So that's why I'm saying when you open yourself up even more, you start basically taking on more things, right? And it's like, why should you? You said same with alcohol for you. You went to a thing, you want a thing, you said we want a thing until we're sick of it, vomit it spiritually, move on. And I think it's also like, I'm Pluto and Scorpio. I think it was big in my generation. I find that Gen Z, like the Pluto and Sag, is so like, it's so much better. Like they're so much energetically healthier. Like every generation is more advanced than the previous one, but we like went hard. The Pluto and Scorpios, I find, and it probably deals with the fact that Pluto was in Scorpio for us in our natal charts as well, right? Like the Pluto and Saggies, like they're not as intense, but maybe also, I don't know, there's a lot of things to look at in that situation, right? Because we were blessed. Like when I would go out back in the day, it wasn't like people were recording all the time. Do you know what I mean? Like we took photos, we had our phones like back then too, but like I find that now, like when people are out, maybe they're a little bit more reserved because they don't know who's filming, or maybe people are constantly like trying to put on a show. I don't know. That's kind of like one of the theories that I have, but I find overall Gen Z as a generation, like they're not as like substance in terms of alcohol. Like they don't drink alcohol when they go out. They don't party as hard or as intensely as, let's say, I find that the millennials did, like when we were in that phase. You said funny thing is you're going to rehab on Wednesday. Oh my gosh, good luck. I'm sending you good vibes. I'm sending you good vibes. You said Pluto and Sag. Hey, yay, I'm glad that you like my channel. Yeah, here's the thing, okay? For spiritual awakening, Scorpio, you want to get to the root of why you are in that energetically, okay? So it's this. Sometimes it's like literally peeling off an onion and being like, okay, it's this, and it's this, and it's this, and it's this, and it's this. And then you finally get to like the root, like cause of something. You said watery person here. You said transmute, vomit, regurgitate. Oh yes, Pluto and Libra here. Excellent observation on people being reserved. I noticed that. I mean, it's nice. Like they're very like, even the dancing was different. I was just talking, like even the type of music was different, and you will see this, right? Like, and that's done by design, right? Like the music that was energetically, I find targeted at like Pluto and Scorpio, which are the millennials, was very sexualized music, right? And that would resonate with Pluto and Scorpio, right? And even the way that Pluto and Scorpio would dance, right? Like the Gen Zs don't dance like that when they're like out and about. Like they're way more chill. Like it's like a friendly vibe with them. Do you know what I mean? So it's really interesting. And also I noticed a lot of like their popular songs are actually kind of sad. Like they all love Lana Del Rey from what I've noticed. And it's like, it's really interesting to me because it's like, it's just such a different vibe, you know? And again, it's like, you'll see like how things get energetically imposed on a generation, right? Like for example, within Pluto and Scorpio on that generation, the whole concept of hookup culture got energetically imposed on that generation, right? And that would go with the Scorpio shadow. Do you know what I mean? So it's interesting to see. Hey, Lorraine, Pluto and Libra. I had a lot of Pluto and Libra friends too. Honestly, I've had so many like range of friends. Pluto and Libra is a lot of fun because with Pluto and Libra, they also have like a strong friendship element. Like I find with them, it was like always like groups of friends, like always going out together. Like it was more like friendship oriented. I hope that makes sense. Like larger groups of friends. My thoughts on destiny swapping, that's real, okay? And you know, you guys, again, be very wary because it can happen like, especially through like exchanging sexual energy. You guys have to keep, you know, like again, eyes and ears open with destiny swapping. Because again, sometimes people want to come into your circle because they like your energy and then they want to be you, okay? And like, you'll see that like slowly they're like trying to adapt your personality traits, or like they're saying little things, like little comments here and there because they like want to be you, right? So I don't think that they can fully, like, here's the thing again, like, I don't think people can fully destiny swap, but what they can do is they can like derail you off your path. Like they can waste your time, they can waste your energy, they can waste like your resources. Do you know what I mean? And then it like throws you off your path because then it's like you could have been on a certain trajectory and it's like this person comes through. But the thing is, they can only come into your life if you allow them. This is what I mean, what I was saying earlier as well, you guys, okay? With like the whole concept of healing and these types of things. It's like you have to become so good at reading people and like their energy and their intentions and just having really strong energetic boundaries, because sometimes these people are coming into your energetic vicinity for nefarious reasons. You said Scorpio Pluto is really all about stinging and stinging back. They soaked and peaked the Scorpio planet. Yeah, at home in Scorpio. Yeah, they have a lot to clear energetically. Yeah, you guys love Lana. I know you guys love Lana. I have family members that are Gen Z, so we went together to, I like Lana too. Like, I don't love anybody, like in terms of like a singer. Like I literally have such a wide range of like musical taste. So I like some of Lana's songs, and there was like a Lana like event or whatever, and it was so fun because it was like, I don't know, it's just like a different vibe, like completely different to how we were like back in the day, which is like honestly way better for the collective, because the way we were back in the day. You said totally agree with substances. You did them hard and now you stopped and you just don't get the same happy feelings anymore that some people drop and vice versa. Yeah, it's an energetic thing. And you'll see this with like even healing modalities. You said you get along with older people like your mother 40 plus, you just give off that soul vibe. Probably something going on with your Saturn or Capricorn. If you get along with older people, it could even be like Saturn in the 7th house, for example. You said watery person here, close off, and you said watery person here, Cancer rising, close off and practice abstinence now. Is there a way you can use this currency of today, which is sexual energy? Yeah, to create for yourself. Use your sexual energy to create for yourself, literally, okay? Focus your energy, because you know what? Some athletes do that. When athletes, like even if they're dating someone, you'll see some athletes like don't sleep with their partner before, like let's say like a big fight or a big game and these types of things, because they're using the sexual energy to channel it into that thing, right? That's what sexual energy is. It's a life force energy, it's creation energy, right? So people don't understand what sexual energy is, and then you're giving your sexual energy away if you're unaware, right? To other people, and then they're using you as an energy battery pack is basically what that is, okay? That's like the foundation of it all. Now the thing is, I mean, I'm not gonna go into too much of like the magic aspect of it, But it's like, I was thinking about, okay, so I was thinking about how the person who recently came out in the news, again, I'm talking in code, we were just mentioning this person, like the one who had all the allegations against them, okay? So this person, and I was thinking about how within their like little club, they do a lot of like things in that arena. I hope you guys are following, okay? I'm trying to speak between the lines, okay? So with them, basically what they're doing, okay? And they're doing it with intention because it's a form of, I guess you can say magic or like ritual. And it's just my own opinion, just from me thinking, okay? So I'm just putting that out there, just my own opinion. But I was thinking about how like for them, like their whole ritual aspect of things is like they all end up sleeping with each other because basically by them sleeping with each other, and this is like done on purpose, okay? So they all sleep together, these individuals, and then the whole reason they're sleeping together is so they can kind of operate as like an entity together. Do you know what I mean? It's stronger, right? So it's like it's done with intention, right? So it's like they're using it in that way because it's like, then it's like this hive-minded like being. I hope that that makes sense because then everyone's energetically interconnected. So yes, hive mind. Yes, harvesting. Oh, and then there's that aspect. Then there's the aspect of harvesting as well. Okay, so then there's that aspect. So the harvesting aspect of it comes from like, and that's why there's like a huge obsession with youth, for example. It doesn't really have anything to do with age. It deals more so with like people who are, let's say, younger or just like less involved with less people, have like a clear energetic field. So usually energy vampires are after that. I hope that that makes sense because then again, your energetic field is clear and they are going to use it to their advantage. So that's why when it comes to sexual energy, guys, this is another thing that people should have to or should explore within themselves. Again, everyone has the free will to do what they want, but really explore and be like, when someone's coming towards you, are you actually attracted to that person or are they coming after your energy? Do you know what I mean? Your energetic field to hook into your energetic space. Because the thing is, sometimes energy vampires, they hook into your energetic space and then the whole, I mean, you know, I'm not going to go into like the whole concept as to like the other aspect of what they're doing also energetically, but like there's like, you know, okay, anyways, I'm not going to give you guys too much like dark information. Let's see. You said it makes sense, right? Yeah, absolutely. Save the children. Exactly. That's exactly what's happening. So there's a few things, right? So there's, okay, so there's all the people that are in this club together that all end up sleeping with each other, right? They're doing it so they can operate as like an energetic hive mind, right? Because they're stronger, because then they're all energetically interconnected, right? It's done on purpose. Then they have the harvesting energy of like the younger people, right? That they're harvesting off of. And like the thing is, okay, I don't know, like I guess trigger warning or like trauma warning. But the thing is, it's like when they inflict trauma on a person, because of them doing that, they're hooking into that person's energetic field as well. Do you know what I mean? So that's why anytime, like even if you guys are hearing this for the first time, like always try to like call your power back to you or cut cords with people or so on and so forth. Like, you know, try to bring the energy back to you because sometimes people are hooked into your energetic field and like they're siphoning your energy without you realizing that they're siphoning your energy. I hope that that makes sense. You said they steal parts of you. Exactly. Added onto their identity. Exactly. And that's why some of them like look better to you because that, okay, here's another thing. Okay. Before all of this, okay, I was thinking once, and I said this in one of my lives before, okay? So a high level narcissist, and this is something that I was thinking about once too, okay? So a high level narcissist, right? And I don't mean this like this person is so amazing because that's what they would want to hear, right? Someone who is a high level narcissist or like really knows how to manipulate energy, the whole thing with them is they become very good at reflecting your energy back to you. Do you know what I mean? So that's like a high level narcissist. You can even look at it as like a dark magician or so on and so forth. Some people are doing it unconsciously because they're unhealed and it's kind of like a survival thing. And then you have other people who are doing it in terms of like a magic aspect of things, right? So what they're doing is they're reflecting your energy back to you. So that's why sometimes you have dynamics with like empath and narcissist, for example, where it's like the empath is like, let's say addicted or hooked into the narcissist, right? But all the narcissist person is doing is reflecting back to the empath who they are. Do you know what I mean? That's why you have to work on self-worth and, you know, your own power within and your solar plexus chakra and your identity and these types of things. So when you're faced in these situations, you're able to recognize it basically, okay? You said the math is mathing. Yes. Oh my gosh, I love you guys. You said they need to teach astrology and spirituality in first grade. You're going to change the world and we're going to change the world. Yes. Oh my gosh, I love that. Yes. Honestly, you know what? I think to myself sometimes, and I'm like, even if you're able to plant the seed for one person, again, the seed is planted, you know, and then that person, it's kind of like, did you guys ever know that movie, like Pay It Forward, from back in the day? It was like this kid who like talked about like paying it forward to like 3 people, and then those people pay it forward to 3 people. Like, you know what I mean? It doesn't have to be a grand thing, you know, sometimes it's in your day-to-day. Like, you'll see this with like North Node and Gemini, for example. A lot of the time, North Node and Gemini, like their life purpose is within their community, for example, right? So with them, it's like, you know, they could be inspiring, let's say the mailman, or they could be inspiring, let's say the hairdresser or the grocery store person, you know what I mean? So it's this, okay? And then you said, like, for example, womanizers, they literally take on so much energy and essence. Exactly, Luna, exactly. And it's like those people, like unconsciously, like that's why they are looking for so many people, because it's a form of energy siphoning, okay? So I wrote about that on my threads as well, okay? Usually I talk about like it from like a neutral standpoint, like energy, like masculine, feminine energy within, and just like people in general, because anyone can be an energy vampire, do you know what I mean? But specifically people who are like very low on their own life force energy are constantly looking for life force energy from other people, right? So that's the whole trick here. And that's actually what I've been thinking about recently, is like, if you guys look at the devil card in the tarot, and if you look at the story of Adam and Eve with the apple, I feel like the temptation thing or aspect was the orgasm, okay? And that's the trick, right? You have to be able to not get like caught into that. Do you know what I mean? Especially when it's coming from the lower chakras with the devil card. Do you know what I mean? The devil card is like the lower 3 chakras, basically lust and like these things. And again, the theological texts were trying to say this to people in their own words, right? But people like misunderstood. And then like, because people misunderstood, they're trying to, again, like people don't have the awareness. And it's so interesting to me because it's like people who were like super religious. I remember even when I was younger, like I don't prescribe to any religion. Like I like learning about everything. And people who are super religious to me, I just never understood them, because I'm like, how do you not question what you're learning? Like I have to look at the metaphysical reasoning for something, and I'm like, okay, that's why it's done that way. Like people just take on beliefs and they're like, okay, it's because it says it here. Like, do you know what I mean? And it's like people don't even get it. And then it's like, oh my gosh, I could go on for days, because then that's also another inversion of its own as well. You said metacognition is essential, thinking about what you're thinking about. I'm not sure what metacognition, I've never heard that before, but I'm going to screenshot that and read it and look into it. You said you have tarot cards, don't use them as much. Lots of energy is there. And you said, and that's why there's such a push on hypersexuality. Exactly, Luna, exactly. I write about that on my threads. And it's targeted at the feminine energy specifically, because they want to drain the feminine energy of the life force, and they want to hook the feminine energy into this like hive mind thing, okay? That's exactly what's happening. That's why exactly all of this is taking place. They want people to willingly enter into these situations being hypersexualized on their own, because they've seen it somewhere and it got planted into their subconscious, and you give your sexual power away is basically what that is, right? You can always reclaim it back to you, like knowing this information now, like, yeah, absolutely, you can reclaim it back to you, but it's like when you're unaware, you're giving your energy away is basically what that is. Exactly. Oh my gosh. Okay, I love it. You guys are so smart. Exactly. That's exactly what's taking place. That's exactly what's taking place down here. And it's like, you guys always have to question when there's a push for something in the collective, you have to be like, why is this taking place? Okay. Because there's always a reason for that taking place. So in terms of like the hypersexualization of the music, and in the way people dress, and in the way, let's say, like the entertainers are in general, like on the stage and this and that, and talking about this and that. And it's just like, it's just bad news bears, because the feminine energy, okay, so this is where it all ties together, okay? This is the theme of today's chat. I love it. You guys are so awesome. This is where it all ties together. The feminine energy is the energy that's going to break this energetic structure, okay, that is around the earth plane. It's like when you're, that's how you like transcend, like whatever term, I don't know, like I'm trying to stay away from new age terms, but that's how you elevate above the whole Saturnian structure that's taking place here. So that's why they want to ruin the feminine energy within the collective, because it's like then people are stuck in their lower 3 chakras and this whole system and feeding into the system. That's basically what's taking place here, okay? That's what it's all connected to. It's for people to continuously reincarnate down here, get, you know, tricked every time, you know, all the deception and so on and so forth. But when you are, again, fully in your power, and you are, again, on your path, and you'll see when you guys are in your highest vibration, you will get people sent to you to throw you off your path, okay? Because that's just how it works down here. It's a plate of duality, and it is a lot of light and dark, okay? That's taking place down here. And it's a spiritual WAR, and because it's a spiritual WAR, literally since the beginning of time, people haven't been able to understand this, right? So it's good to learn all these things, and that's how you operate outside of it, okay? Is basically what that is. I hope that makes sense, okay? And eventually, you don't reincarnate again. This is my own opinion. I have to say that it's my own opinion, okay? You guys have discernment, so. You said feminine develops culture. The feminine is what brings souls through. All of them, mental love. Like you just don't know like who's worse. You said you wish all you spiritual people lived on your block. You're tired of everyone. But that's the thing. It's like the spiritual people are spread for a reason because you're like anchoring the light in that particular area. Interesting. I never learned that term before. I'm gonna have to look it up after. You said we out here working and working and working. This job is life force, but nice to see fellow employees. Also nice to see our work starting to exactly count. We are working overtime energetically. Okay, that's basically what it is. Working overtime energetically, and you don't need a lot of people. I think that's another one of the deceptions down here on this airplane. Us thinking like, oh, it has to be everybody. Oh, we have to wake up everybody. It's not everybody. You need a specific amount of people because then your auric field becomes strong, and just by you existing, okay, and being who you are, you don't even have to talk to people. Do you know what I mean? It's your energy is like you walk through a crowded place and boom, the energy kind of like sprinkles, right? Remember what I was saying earlier about the thought patterns, right? So it's like when you're no longer getting drained by the dark person, you're in your power now, okay? You are complete, you're not porous. You're now basically energizing this person or planting the seed energetically. Like you don't actually have to do much is basically what that is. It's just by you being yourself. You said, I'm sharing guidance to lower people. You can imagine that. We also need to spread more life and space. You said, could we? Well said. We'll glow in the dark. Absolutely. You said, this is why you don't do parties. Yeah. Things have like, it's interesting. I didn't used to notice it before, but again, maybe it's a frequency thing, but it's like, there's a lot of dark energy around, like out and about. There's a lot of dark energy around. You said this is so true. That's why there are monks who have sworn off exactly and really exactly, Luna, exactly. I was talking about this with my family, and there's some movie, I don't know what it's called, but there was some movie where they were living as, I think, like monks or something of that sort, and they were basically saying, because like they understand the whole concept of karma, right? They were basically saying in this movie, I don't know what it's called. I really wish I asked them, but anyways, whatever. So we were talking about some sort of, they were telling me, and we were talking about this whole concept, and they were talking about some sort of movie that like in that movie, like the monks didn't even, okay, so let's say they were building a house, right? And like while they were building a house, let's say like, you know, part of the house gets built on like an ant farm. And like, because they believe in karma so much, right? They're like, okay, we have to like destroy the whole house and start again because we're destroying the ant farm, right? Because the thing is, the tricks of the trade is like you come down here, you want to clear the karma, but you don't want to accumulate more. Do you know what I mean? So the way that I think these days, right, is like, let's say, right, when I'm walking wherever, right, let's say I'm like using like a napkin or whatever, and let's say the napkin falls on the ground, right? Usually I would pick it up anyways, right? But the thing is, in my mind, my logic is like, okay, let me pick up this napkin because you don't know if I don't pick it up, maybe the next person is going to slip on it and then the karma is on you. Do you know what I mean? So that's just like a random example. And it's like, whatever, you're gonna have the climate change, people being like littering, blah, blah, blah. Like regardless, like if you drop it, you should probably pick it up. You know what I mean? But if you look at it from the concept of karma, right? It's like, this is how it is, right? It's like, you want to try to not accumulate more while you are down here, and you want to clear what you have so you can exit, is basically what that is, okay? That's why a lot of religions, you'll see a lot of religions, they ask for forgiveness, okay? Or like they go to, let's say some of the religions go to a person, they talk about forgiveness, or some of them like, you know, ask in general, like sometimes I've seen people write a post, right? Like when they're going somewhere, right? And like they're gonna be like, okay, if I've wronged you, let me know now, because like they're quote unquote asking for forgiveness because they're energetically, that's their way of trying to neutralize the energy, clear the karma, right? So it's different concepts, right? And like different, again, theologies, but it's all the same at the end of the day, is basically what that is, okay? Let's see. Oops. Again, I accidentally muted one of you by accident. Oops. Unhidden. Let me mute this other person. Okay, I unmuted the person that I accidentally muted, and then I muted the other one because it moves fast, the chat. Energy footprint. Let's see. When you were studying in Reiki class, you noticed that our individual gifts, 1 second. Okay, I'm going back up. You said you were studying for your Reiki class. You noticed that your individual gifts got stronger when you were, exactly. And that's another reason they try to keep people apart, right? Or like, that's another reason like I guess you can look at it as like the dark energy or so on and so forth, like tries to keep like the more lighter or higher vibrational beings, like whatever way, shape or form you guys want to look at it, right? They try to keep people separated, right? And the whole reason for that is, again, when you're together, you're bouncing off of each other, and again, you know, you're strengthening the vibration. So it's like, if you can, because I know one of you guys was like, oh, I wish you guys were all on my block. Well, see if you can find people around you who are like you. Do you know what I mean? Thanks for the likes, you guys. I'm just looking at what you guys are talking about in the chat. Exactly, Luna. That's literally what I was thinking about. Oh my gosh, Luna, we are literally on the same telepathic frequency. That was the whole point of that, was exactly that, to keep people away from this energetic, like I don't know how to call it, like when the two fields basically, like, you know, overlap with each other. Fighting fire with fire doesn't, here's the thing, you guys, fighting fire with fire doesn't lose fire from the original source. The thing is, in the past, people have tried to fight fire with fire. It doesn't change anything. This is what I was saying. And again, this is tying to the other thing that I was talking about earlier in this chat as well, okay? Or in the live. This is what I mean. The feminine energy operates behind the scenes. The feminine energy knows that it's from the spiritual realms. Everything manifests. So you want to fight in the spiritual realms is basically what that is. It's not anything in the physical that you're basically doing, okay? You want to have the spiritual strength and you want to be fighting in the spiritual realms. Fighting fire with fire doesn't do anything, because if it would have done something, things would have changed by now, because that's what people have been doing this entire time. Do you know what I mean? Hey, Wondering Wendy, how are you guys doing? Yeah, it was definitely a scam, spiritual awakening, Scorpio. It's true, it's true. You said people like you are usually introverted. That is true. Okay, I'm just going back up to see what else you guys were talking about. Is that what the movie was called? The Naked Monks? You said, and these social media platforms and mainstream music are bringing in younger generation of women. Exactly. And don't get me started on the other thing that is becoming so popular on social media, the only FANS. That's the same, that's the other, like, that's another way that it's pulling people into that as well. Anyways, that's a whole different conversation. I mean, it's the same, it's part of the same conversation. I'm just not going to go on that whole tangent, but it's like the same thing. Hypersexualization of the feminine energy is basically what that is. Pulling like the vibration down. You said tarot is something you get back up to when the time is right. Also, your cards tell you it's not time for it now. Depends. Just listen to your intuition at the end of the day. That's all that you can really, really do. Okay, guys, if you guys want your own natal chart reading or your own progressive natal chart reading or signature reading, send me an email. And we will go from there. You guys, thank you all for the chats today and for just bouncing off of each other. I'm so here for it. You said the isolation wound, if it's so we don't connect with others, exactly, and raise each other's energy, because if we were having more conversations like this, exactly. But here's the thing, this is where it backfired, right? Because then everybody went online. And now we're talking about it online. Do you know what I mean? And me talking about it, right? I'm here talking to you guys, but it's vibrating through like this whole area because I'm speaking it, right? Because the way that I see it, like sometimes you have to speak things, and like by you speaking it, it kind of is energetically like you're dropping like a little coin into like the water where you can get the ripple effect, okay? You'll see Aquarius energy kind of gets that like taking place with them. Like Aquarius energy always has these futuristic ideas, and that's why Aquarius has to continue speaking, because even if they speak and nobody hears them, it's like you speaking it is like, again, where's our spells, right? So by you speaking it basically is creating the ripple effect regardless, right? Because it's a frequency thing. Yeah, Esperance, I totally got you. You're welcome. You said they know that we know, but use it negatively. Well, that's why you'll see people who usually have a lot of light energy or higher vibrational usually have gone through a lot in their lives. They get energetically targeted. That's why you have to learn how to fully protect yourself energetically to not be able to be brought down, is basically what that is. Okay, that's basically what it is, because it's all happening from the astral realm. Like, it's interesting because there's like, okay, so here's the thing, you guys, I'm just gonna say this and then I'm gonna bounce. Basically what's taking place is like, there's the whole healing aspect of things, which is like, again, remember how I was saying the different levels, right? So there's that aspect of things, but eventually you get to the point where it's like, hold on a second, like most of these things were never even my own things. Like this is something external to me that's actually taking place. I'm not saying don't take responsibility for things that have taken place, absolutely not, okay? But I'm saying eventually after you've worked on yourself, you can't constantly be focusing on healing and this and that, right? Like then you're just like kind of going into like shadow Virgo energy, right? What I'm trying to say is like you get to the point eventually where you feel energetically like, okay, I know this is my soft spot, or this can be my wound, or I can do this, or I can act like this in this moment when I'm triggered, and so on and so forth. The point is you don't act in that way when those moments come up, is basically what that is, okay? And it's like you don't feed into it either. Do you know what I mean? Because sometimes, again, things get sent to you, right? But it's like it's a matter of not feeding into those things to lower your vibration down, because then your vibration gets lower down and it's like a whole thing, okay? Basically that takes place after that. So that's basically what it is. Eventually, when you raise your own frequency, you've cleared, you know, a certain amount of things that you needed to clear, you know, learned a lot about yourself, the self-awareness, you will see that things will get sent to you energetically. And the whole thing here is like, you basically don't want to be affected by those external things, is basically what that is. You're welcome. Thank you all for being here. You said you love how I spell out the word and don't say it. Exactly. I do that too. Yeah, I do it for that reason. And then also the algorithm. I don't know what words you can say, what words you can't say. I love you guys as well. Oh, you said you've been bullied in elementary for no reason. What's like, I want to say it's the matrix, but it's just like the way that this energetic system is, unfortunately. Exactly. You said you're careful because of what you say out loud because of that. Exactly. Thank you. Thank you guys as well. Yay. I'm so glad you guys were here. I hope you all have a beautiful rest of your day or evening, wherever you are.